Welcome back to Widowed AF. You're here with your host, Rosie Gill-Moss, and joining me is Dan Frost. Hello, Dan. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Rosie. Thanks for inviting me on.
Well, I'm so pleased to finally speak to you because you've been a follower of the show from the beginning, haven't you? And you've commented and messaged, and I know you and John have had some dialogue, and it just feels, I don't know, you sort of feel part of the WAF family. So it's nice to be sitting across from you, as it were.
Yeah, it's nice to get here and get a chance to talk to you both. It's been really interesting following.
You and John had a little bit of a bloke chat before we came on air, didn't you? Which was sweet because I was obviously fannying around until the last minute, screeching in at 5 minutes before record time. That's how things roll here.
It was good to chat to him. It was really good. Yeah, I've heard a lot from him, and the messaging through Instagram has been good. But it's been nice to see him face to face.
Yeah,
having something in common as well.
Yeah, well, I think it's finding that common theme. It's like, how many blokes do you know whose wives have died of the same cancer, right? You feel it's all about finding your tribe again, I suppose. But anyway, I've already gone off on a tangent. We just discussed going off on tangents, didn't we? So Dan's wife, Lisa, she died from bowel cancer. That's right. Which is the same
correct,
cancer that took Sarah's, John's first wife.
It's classed as metastatic colorectal cancer or colon cancer, but it's in that group, that area, yeah.
In that area.
Yeah.
And she was just 43. And one of the things Dan and I spoke about, just very briefly, is I said it seems to be, I obviously speak to more women than men, just by the nature of the beast, and men do seem to die younger, but women often, it's a cancer that goes unnoticed because perhaps of embarrassment. They might be ovarian where you're used to getting pains, and with bowel, obviously it's not something that we talk about much as women. And you said yourself that was exactly the case, and it was to do with the sort of embarrassment that led to Lisa's diagnosis being delayed.
Yeah, I think again that was part of how she wasn't so much shut herself down towards the end, but not wanting to discuss it with me so much because I was a husband, and you don't want to talk. She wouldn't want to talk about that to me, about that area. It is still a taboo subject as well, and it's great now that we're talking about it more in the public because of the bowel babe and other things that have happened recently. So the message is getting across, but for Lisa personally, it was really difficult for her to talk to me about it. And I can imagine, because I'm a bit that way. I'm very much a bathroom door closed kind of girl, and I always have been. And having been, listened to John's story, obviously the recording of it, and also by nature of living with him, and it's grim, isn't it? And it's dehumanizing, and it transitions you from being the husband and the to the carer, and that's a real difficult transition, especially if you're used to feeling attractive and having an inverted commas sort of normal loving relationship. But anyway, Dan, I'm sort of predicting the future, really. I haven't actually heard your story through, so I should probably let you do that before I start making grand declarations. So Dan, tell me a little bit about you and Lisa. Start with the love story. Tell me about when you met. We met at the age of 21, where I worked. The company she had been working for had chosen to rent out a property and an office rent, and I'd been in and out of our yard a lot, being a farmer, and we've got a haulage company, so I was on the lorries quite a lot. And I'd come in the yard, and then I'd see Lisa walking down the yard. Didn't know her, but as a young lad, you sort of you have a who's that, and she'd always say hello, and then it just progressed from there as friends. We always caught up with each other, and she'd ask about my day, and because her office was so close to where I worked, we couldn't avoid each other. So that went on for a long time, and we became more like best friends, really. And you have that person where you can ring them any time of the day or night. You can say anything you want to them, doesn't matter where you are, and they're always checking in on you, messaging you all the time. And we just had that
that trust, that connection.
Yeah,
Um,
and that's so special, isn't it?
yeah, it was special, and you find that person that they seem to be like your home. So if you know how you feel about that, it's sometimes a home doesn't have to be a place. It's sometimes a person. So if you can sort of relate to having that person as knowing that they're your home, um, and that's how we
Yeah.
felt. It went on like that for a long while. We stayed really good friends. We done social stuff together. It took us a few years to realise that we were meant to be with each other. We went off a couple of times, realised then that we weren't so good apart. It was meant to be, but I think we needed to do that to realise
Yeah.
that we were meant to be together.
Yeah,
And
especially meeting so young as well.
yeah, yeah. And at that time though, you don't think you're that young, do you? Think, oh, I'm in my
Oh
early
no.
twenties. We need to settle down now and get a house and have children. But I'm glad we did that few years of just staying friends, because we got to know each other a lot more, and we sort of worked out each other's traits. And she knew I was hard work and done a lot of hours, but I think she respected that. And Lisa herself, she'd been doing an office manager's job. She'd been in that role for quite a few years, and she lived in Newmarket, which is about 35 minutes from where I lived. So I'd go and see her. She had her own house at the time. And then I bought a house in our local village, my first house, and she helped me do that up, brought all the ideas in as well, all the colour schemes and everything. So that helped me loads. And she was my, just that advice all the time, and pushed me to try and go further in life, not, and try and progress as well as I could.
Yeah, just like your supporter and your number one fan. And I can
Yeah,
really feel that in how you're describing your relationship, because that's how I felt about Ben. And when he died, I just thought, who's my person now? Like the person that I'm going to call for anything, or who will always be the champion in my corner. And I'm very fortunate that I found it with John. But it's hearing you say that, the benefit of knowing each other as friends and that kind of warts of all and all. So when John and I became romantically involved, like there was no coyness, there was no secrets. Everything was known. You're a known quantity, I suppose.
I think that's a lovely way to do it, because you've worked out each other's ways, and then when you become a proper couple, that just goes as it is. Then you just become a part of it.
Yeah,
Then,
and it's
and
magic, right?
it is. You don't really have to try as much. Well, you have to try, obviously, but it's just natural. That's that, and that's a lovely onward step to know that you can now go as a couple, and make that new move. But yeah, so we moved in together. I think it was 2020. Sorry, no, I get the dates wrong now. Anyway, yeah, we moved. We
Don't worry
moved
too
in.
much. I can barely
Yeah,
remember
sorry.
my own date of birth.
But we moved into the first house that I'd done up. I lived in it on my own for probably about 8 months to a year while Lisa was still in Newmarket. But then we realised that it was time to sort of make that step. So Lisa moved in with me, because if she lived with me, it would meant that work would only be about a mile away. So it was a lot easier for her to do that. And then Lisa fell pregnant with James and had James. I think I was 28, and Lisa would have been 29 when she had James.
Same as
And
me
then
when I had my first.
yeah, it was, and we had a lovely start to life in this house that we'd done up together. Then we sort of moved into a different village, into a bigger house, which was probably a step I wouldn't have taken on my own. I needed Lisa to try and encourage me to do that, really. But she said, let's go for it, and have that bigger house for if we have more children. And that's when we had Amber. Then I think I was about 33, so 6 years later we had Amber,
It's a lovely
and
name.
spent some lovely years in that village as well.
And this is just kind of, perfect family scenario, and because I know that this is all going to go to shit.
Yeah, there's no happy
You're
ending.
listening to this and thinking, oh, this, wonderful idyllic village, 2.4 children,
Yeah, exactly. Was that you've got the
um,
neighbourhood? We had parties outside on the green, and you think then, oh, this is what life's all about. This is just
yeah.
perfect.
We've
the
made it. We're
children are
happy.
healthy. I've got a lovely wife, and work was busy. Work was good. And then we then done the next step again, and we sold that place and took on a very small 70s bungalow, which we completely more or less flattened.
You like a project?
It was a big project, yeah, probably too much, but I've got friends that were in the business, and they took it on for me, and it went well in the end, but it was really stressful at the time.
A labour of love, right?
Yeah, it was. We both had to go through it to get where we needed to be, but knowing that when it was done, it was going to be a beautiful place for us all to sort of live on with. Fortunately, Lisa had a couple of years. So we moved in 2017, and she died in 2019. So she had 2 years in the house that we'd sort of renovated or prepared for. It took a good 2 to 3 years to try and get it all finished. So
and this is your sort of forever home.
Yeah, that's where we are now. So the kitchen I'm in now, this kitchen table was the one that Lisa designed. The place, Lisa put a touch on it. It was kind of her plan, really, just to get it done with quite a big garden. So, but I think that's helped the children. That's helped support them, knowing that this is a nice area, this is a nice place, and they've got that comfort.
In a stable place.
Yeah. So that and then it all kind of went downhill after that. As such, it was.
So what happened? What were the first indicators that something may be wrong?
Lisa's working really hard at Green King and Berry as an office manager, office worker, and I noticed more then that she was getting really fatigued, tired, a lot of sickness, and it was after tea at night. It would be, Dan, I've just got to go to bed. She'd just say, I've had enough. I've got to go and lay down. We just put it down to busy work life with 2 young children, house to run, everything else. That is just generally that time of your life. That's natural, isn't it?
But it's exhausting, isn't it? Yeah, it is an exhausting time.
Yeah, and I've got to admit, I did worry, because I thought this shouldn't really be like this, but what could you say? It was just one of them things where I just had to respect that, and I was just hoping that things would improve.
Well, also, your mind doesn't automatically go to cancer, does it? Oh, my wife's tired. You don't automatically go, it's cancer. You're perhaps thinking maybe she's, low in iron or something.
Yeah, right? Yeah. That is completely right, and you just don't look for that. I think now that the awareness is out there more, you'd probably be the first thing you thought about. But in them days, it was we even then.
Oh, and
I
think having lived through what we've lived through, the first sign of, I'm constantly checking moles on people, and you are now that is where your mind would go. But back in the, as I like to call them, the innocent years before our lives had been blasted to pieces, it wasn't on your radar, presumably.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't on the radar at all, and it's the same as everything now, isn't it? Once you've been through that worst experience, then you always think the worst. If someone goes out for the day, you worry about what might happen, or because before that, in that perfect life, you just hadn't experienced that before. So no, they didn't. It didn't happen to you. It didn't happen to us. It was always someone else.
Right?
No. And then when it does, when the worst happens,
and especially. Oh, sorry. I was just saying, especially it tends to be when people are quite young and they're fit and they're well, and often the cancer goes unnoticed or undiagnosed because their body is so fit and well that you don't notice it.
No, you don't, and we didn't notice it.
There were guys. I was speaking to women whose husbands were running marathons with cancer. They just didn't know they had it. I mean, it's insane, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's no sign, is there? Like you say, there's people still keeping fit, still running, and that's how it is. You can't see someone when they've got cancer. You can't tell until it gets that bad. That's what happened to Lisa. We tried all we could, and she presented herself at A&E. She presented herself at the GP. Unfortunately, it just didn't get spotted at all. It was just far too little, too late, really. it all
And
started.
was it similar to Sarah in that they thought in things like norovirus and irritable bowel and...
I've got a bit of a timeline of 2019 was when things really started to show up.
Yeah, you talk me through it. I'll try not to interrupt you.
And it went from that year where Lisa had got a friend's wedding where she was bridesmaid in the November. And she came in to me, she got the dress on and said, I just don't feel right, Dan. I just feel really clammy and pale and I have low of energy. Just don't look myself, don't feel myself. And I'm just trying to be positive and say, well, you look lovely. Just go and do your best. I'm sure you'll be fine. And so that went on. And she got the photos back from that wedding and she could see herself that she just felt really bloated and not comfortable enough. And she tried to eat properly. She tried to exercise more, but she just had no energy at all. And this had gone on really for, if I look back and I've got records of it, probably for a couple of years before that as well. So whether that was connected or not, it may well have been. But so yeah, that was November. It then kind of progressively got worse with the tiredness through that month. And then we had the Christmas of 2019, which was fine. Didn't go too bad. It was nice. Into the new year, I think we were hoping to plan to go away somewhere for a few nights, just maybe abroad, a little trip. And I remember I was about to book it, and Lisa had said, Dan, I'll just wait if I was you, because I just don't feel up to it. And that wasn't like her. She'd be up for going away. We always usually went away in the UK, like a touring caravan or a cottage somewhere. But this was going to be a bit of a treat. I think we thought we'd go to Prague or something like that, somewhere different.
Oh, Prague, nice.
Yeah, somewhere just in a city, just for a bit of sightseeing. But she said, I'm not going to be able to walk around. I've not got the energy. So we just had a night in a local town. There's like a restaurant, pub, really nice place. We had a night there, and it was just, she didn't really, you could see that night she just wanted to go to bed and sleep. She was overtired, and I went down to the bar that night and just sat there and thought, there's something not right here. We've got to try and get to the bottom of it, because I just felt really bad for her, because life was just, she wasn't enjoying life as much because she couldn't really do anything. She carried on working. She was getting the tests done. They'd done different blood tests and everything. Been to the doctors loads of times. They kept sending her back with gastronomical problems and gastritis, abdominal issues, gallbladder problems perhaps. They couldn't really put the finger on it, but we just wasn't getting any answers. So this really got to the point of that January. She was in severe pain at home, and the hospital, we'd phoned the hospital and got the ambulance out. So she'd been into A&E then. I think over the space of 2 or 3 years, she'd had the ambulance out probably 3 or 4 times just for the pain. And the ambulance had took her in, and she'd had a night in the hospital. And I'd always think, right, now we'll get some answers, because she's been into the hospital. We'll finally get some answers here, and we might know what's going on. But we never really got any clarification at all. It was just maybe a stomach upset or an infection. But then when it got to that January of 2020, we could see there was really an issue, and we were then forced to try and get some more answers.
Yeah.
So she went in, February the 27th was the worst time. And
I'm just thinking, what a time of year for this to happen as well, because we're right on the cusp of lockdown.
Yeah, this was just before lockdown. So we got February 27th is when she presented herself into A&E with severe pain. Like, she was, the only way I can probably relate it to was when I'd seen Lisa in labour having the children. Yeah. That helplessness, that look as if to say, you need to help me because I don't know what's going on. I'm just in so much pain.
That must be so difficult to see your wife like that.
It's just the look in her eyes. You know, when you've got a child and they look at you when they've fallen over or they're there, and
they're
it's just that
frightened.
I just need someone to help me. Please just get me somewhere to take some pain away. So
It's made me go,
I'd gone in, and I think that the ambulance came out that time to take her in. And I do know the exact bits, but while I'm talking to you, I kind of lose that track of thought, really. But
okay, it doesn't matter.
so she went in that time, and I thought, okay, we're finally getting somewhere now. It's got to be sorted out because it's got that bad. And then they sent her back home again they've given her medication for a gastronomical infection, or it could be possibly diverticulitis. So, all right, okay, so we've got all the notes of the diet she has to change to and everything else, like fiber, and I know you can look into it. I know, well, there's different ways of dealing with that, isn't there?
I'm trying to spell the word divert.
Yeah, it's a tough one. So that was on the 27th. And then 2 days later, on February the 29th, I think it was a Friday evening, she was on the bathroom floor again, rolling, just curled up on a towel on the bathroom floor, crying and shouting. And I don't know if I think I got a little bit angry, not with her, but I said, like, we've just been in and we've had no answers, and it's getting worse. It's obviously not what they've said it is, because we're not getting anywhere with it at all. It's just getting worse. So she went back in that Friday night, and we picked her up on the Saturday morning, came home. They'd given her the Senna, they'd given her paracetamol to settle it down, and then had booked her in for a colonoscopy that Monday, which I think was the 1st or 2nd of March, whatever day that was. It was a Monday, which is, I thought, great, now we're going to find out exactly what's going on. We're going to get a colonoscopy, which is what we've been waiting for a long time. And we probably should have pushed quicker, but Lisa was really selfless, never really put herself first. So she wouldn't be the sort of person to ring up and go, look, you need to sort me out here. This is getting too bad. It was like, oh, do you mind if you can fit me in? She was always so polite. She didn't want to trouble anybody. And it was the same like that right up until the end of the hospice. She was really more worried about everybody else than herself, and which was a downfall towards it in that time, because I think you have to be pushy to get somewhere especially with that kind of disease.
Yeah.
You need to keep phoning up and trying to get these appointments.
You've got to be the squeaky wheel, haven't you? It shouldn't be that way, but
no. So that Monday, it was left that. So I took her in on a Sunday afternoon into the hospital, where she was meant to stay there the evening and night, where they put the iodine into a system, so when they have the colonoscopy, they can then see what's going on.
Yeah.
So it was a routine night in the hospital for a morning appointment to have a checkup and colonoscopy. So I said to Lisa, I'll stay at home. I'll come and pick you up on Monday, no problem. And she said, no, you might as well go to work, because I can get someone else to pick me up. There's no point you worrying. So I went off in the truck that day somewhere over Birmingham way, just didn't think nothing of it. And I just thought to myself, well, at least now we're hopefully going to get some answers. I hadn't heard nothing during the day, which was a bit alarming, because I thought I'd get a text message or a phone call. She said, well, I'll let you know how I get on. And as the day went on, I heard less and less. And then Lisa's close friend or best friend and one of our close friends, Cara, had texted me and said, I've heard from Lisa. She's messaged to say they're not going to do the colonoscopy now. They've checked her over and they're concerned, but they're going to send her down for a minor operation. But please don't worry, everything's going to be okay. It's just a minor operation. So obviously, naturally, you do start to worry.
Well, of course. And also, why hadn't Lisa messaged you direct?
No,
she didn't want to worry you.
You didn't want to worry me. No, this is Lisa.
Yeah.
And I think because she knew I was at work and driving that day, she didn't want to. And I would have panicked, because you do, because you're helpless. I'm too far away from home.
And you love her.
To help. Yeah. So I'm on my way back, hadn't heard nothing back, got home that evening, and the children were both around my mum and dad's for tea. And it got to 7:30 at night. They were at the time, Amber was 8 and James was 14. So I'd got home, I'd heard nothing at all at 7:30 at night. I'm thinking, I'm starting to get more concerned now, and Cara hadn't heard nothing else either. I think, okay, this is more serious than what we thought, because if it was a minor operation, then we'd have heard more, because it's now, we're getting on late evening.
Mm-hmm.
And then this unrecognised number came up on my mobile, picked it up, and it was the surgeon from the hospital. And he said, we've got your wife here, Dan. She's now being put into intensive care. We've just finished a major operation. It's took 7 hours, and we've removed a tumour the size of a large orange. Luckily enough, she's made it through, but it could have been a different story. She could have been in a different part of the hospital. And then I've got the phone thinking, this is not what was meant to happen. And I was just shocked, because then your whole life changes, doesn't it? Because you think,
well, the big C's been mentioned.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and then we're in a different world already. So
oh, I'm quite cold hearing that, Dan. I'm so sorry. Poor woman.
So I spoke to the surgeon. I wasn't able to see her until, I think it was a Wednesday. This happened on the Monday, so we had to leave it on Tuesday, and I was able to go and visit her on the Wednesday. And she'd had a right hemicolectomy, so they partly removed the large bowel and then reconnected it to remove the tumour. So what we found out then was that evening, when the doctor had done his rounds to check on everybody, he realised that Lisa was in such severe pain. He'd spoken to her and asked her what the pain level was, and she'd said, "Look, I'm not making a fuss, but it's definitely a 10. I'm not exaggerating. I'm in that much pain." He said, "Well, I'm not going to wait for tomorrow for a colonoscopy. We're going to get you down straight away, because we're more than worried." And thankfully, he made that decision, because he said to me afterwards, had he have left her, then her bowel would have burst, and then you've got septicemia, and then you're then trying to fight a losing battle, because it can be severe and fatal. Yeah. So she knew as well as I did.
Suffered a lot with sepsis.
Lisa knew as well as I did that night. She could have died then that night. We wouldn't have known anything. There'd be no warning. She'd have gone in for a routine colonoscopy and never came home. So we were thankful that he found what he did, and he was able to sort of save a life, basically.
And give you, some time to process and to be together, rather than having that just the shock.
Yeah, well, I visited her on the Wednesday, and she was out within a week, which was amazing for her. Her recovery was incredible. But then that week of visiting her was the final week of not being in lockdown. After that, everything was full lockdown. So we've then got appointments which were then delayed. Follow-ups were delayed. It was just a different world, as you know, because we didn't know what was happening then, did we? It was quite scary, because everything completely was being just shut right down. And
yeah, but I can't imagine. Obviously I had a fairly traumatic lockdown experience myself, but to know that your wife has got cancer now, this word has been mentioned, but the whole country's the whole world's gone into lockdown. And that speed is of the essence with cancer. We all know this.
Yeah, it is, Rosie. Yeah. But the thing is, when the operation was done, they said to us they're going to send the tumour off for biopsy, and then contact us or have a meeting to let us know what the results are. So we still had that little bit of hope that it might be a
benign.
That's the word, isn't it? Yeah, hold on. And we thought, well, there'll be a proper meeting, and we'll get to see someone face to face and find out what it is. And we'd waited about a week, and we'd heard nothing at all, because COVID had then kicked in, or COVID lockdown. And Lisa got a phone call to tell her that it was cancer. There wasn't any meeting. It was over the phone. So she was sitting at home. I was outside with a friend. We were doing some work on a drive, and she said, "Dan, you need to come in. I've got something to tell you." So we sat down, and she said, they've just phoned me up and they've found that the tumour is cancerous. And me being the typical bloke said, oh, I'm going to go back outside and finish off. I'll be in an hour. We'll have a chat about it then, because I was in total shock.
But that would be your brain protecting you, giving you a job to do, a bloke thing. I can go and do something practical whilst my brain processes what I've just heard.
Yeah, it's totally the wrong thing to do, because I should have just sat there with her and gone through it at the time. But so it was a phone call.
Wrong when your world's blown apart.
Yeah, exactly. It was to have that news over the phone was really shocking.
Oh, it's really and then made my tingles go.
Feeling so helpless as well, because you expect to be able to see someone professionally, but there isn't any appointments at the time because they're only letting the most important cases into the hospital. So it was then the start of a journey of knowing how and what the cancer is, has it spread, is it treatable, and what course are we taking?
Isn't it?
Yeah, and what avenue are we going down now? Are we going? How is the chemo going to work? Lisa was obviously then conscious about, is it going to be tablet form, or are we going to go to Macmillan to have the interviews and everything and visits? So it was a real tough start then, because us hopefully a rebuild, and because we knew as little as we did about cancer then, we thought we'd succeeded by removing the tumour and being clear. But what we then realised is the damage had already been done, because that tumour had grown to the size of an orange. And then I found out since then that even when a cancerous tumour is the size of a pea, it can still spread around the body. So whilst it's grown from that size to the size of an orange, it's been spreading all that time. So really, she was probably terminal at that point of that operation. But we didn't get the terminal diagnosis until April 2021, like nearly just over a year later.
So she must have been, she must have been in quite significant discomfort at the very least. Throughout, sorry, I've pushed forward a little bit just because the way my mind works, but I'm just thinking, she's been told that she's got this cancer, this really brutal cancer, and that it's progressed. And then she has a year until she dies. And what was that year like for you guys? Because I hate asking this, because I really feel like this is the point where the hope disappears. And I think that's when your whole outlook on life changes. I'm just wondering how it affected your relationship and your relationship with your children, how you told your children. That's a lot of questions to ask you in one go, sorry.
Yeah, so we'll skip forward a bit so after the operation.
And you do it at your own pace. Look, I'm sorry, I shouldn't interrupt you.
That's fine. No, it's fine, Rosie. We had the adjuvant chemo, which gave that started off quite well. It seemed to be going quite well, and then she was offered the adjuvant chemo to treat the residual disease, but she had a coronary artery spasm, which is like a heart spasm, which was due to the chemo tablets. So they wanted to keep her on the tablets, because then if the spasm happened, they could then stop her taking the tablets. Whereas if they did it induced, or I don't know what the form of how they call it now in Macmillan, if they'd have done it that way, then they can't take it back out again. It's in there in the system. So because of this risk, they decided to stop the chemo, because it was more risk to her having a heart issue, maybe a long-term heart damage issue, than it would have been for what help the chemo might be doing. The adjuvant chemo was like a clean-up chemo, which we thought was going to clear up what might have spread. But it spread
like the residual cancer.
Yeah, it spread to 13 lymph nodes. So it was classed as then really serious. Not quite stage 4, but sort of getting there. Yeah. This went on. We had a holiday in 2020. We went to Devon when they had that COVID scheme where they tried to get you out, didn't they, to eat. It was like the pubs were doing special offers and everything. So eat out to help out job.
Eat out to help out.
Yeah. We'd got a trip planned to Devon, and Lisa had said, you should go with James and Amber. I'm going to stay here because I'm vulnerable because of the cancer, which the COVID lockdown kind of helped that, because people wouldn't visit anyway because of lockdown. So she didn't have to try and explain to people that they shouldn't be coming around worried about giving a cold or a sickness bug or something. But then we thought this, and she was encouraged by the oncologist team at Macmillan to have a holiday. They kind of worked the chemo around it. They lessened it towards the holiday. They brought it off early so she could go on holiday as fit and well as possible. And that holiday went quite well. She was able to do quite a bit with this, because in our eyes we'd got over that operation and we were in recovery, and it was then now basically a matter of keeping an eye on the cancer. Had it spread, quite frequent checkups and scans, and then try and deal with it if it gets worse. So we weren't in the definite terminal time at that point. So we'd had that holiday, it went well, and we'd come home really positive. I think it's like July, August time. That autumn went okay, and then we had our last proper Christmas together then, Christmas 2020. Again, still thinking that we were just riding that crest of a wave. We'd had that scare, but we'd been put in that position then when life had changed, because you'd had such a scare, knowing that life's so delicate. Everything had kind of changed, and we're all going through the COVID lockdown thinking, well, life's a lot more precious now. We've just seen this fact that Lisa's nearly died. We're now all spending more time together at home. So everyone's outlook has changed. And I think that was a general outlook for most people as well. A lot of people working from home. I'd spent then, so the beginning of 2021, I'd carried on working as much as I could. And then she'd had a few more scans and checkups. And we got into March, April 2021, and then she was due another scan. She'd not had chemo for a while, and she was looking the best she'd looked for a long time. I can remember that morning saying to her, "It's such a shame that you've got to have the chemo now, because you're looking healthy." She was feeling fit, and it was we knew what was coming, because we knew this next cycle of chemotherapy was going to be really harsh, and we'd already been told the risks. And she was going to lose her hair, and it was going to be it's like on a cycle where, I don't know if John can relate to that, where you have the chemo treatment and then you have like 3 weeks before your next one. So you've got the week after the chemo treatment is terrible because she's getting over that hit she's had. The second week is a little bit better, but she's still, still fatigued and still in pain. And then that third week, where you're meant to be a lot better, or she's meant to be a lot more healthy and feeling better, the anxiety is coming back, because you're going back in for that chemo again the following week. So there's never a good week. You've either you're dealing with what you've just had, or you're thinking about what you're about to have next. Anyway, so she'd gone in and had this next scan, and then we were due an appointment. I hadn't been to any appointments with Lisa because I wasn't allowed to go in. So all the information she was getting from the oncologist was all dealt with by Lisa. So I had to then
And the fact
question.
that she's having to go in and hear this stuff herself,
Yeah,
without
yeah.
you to hold her hand.
Yeah,
I've heard people going and having babies on their own and things, but this is really, really cruel, isn't it?
I went to the first appointment at Macmillan to meet the nurses there with Lisa, which was a shocking. It hadn't really sunk in then, because you're in this new place looking around thinking, this is what we've got now, this is life. But then after that, I didn't go to any other appointments up until only a few months before she died. So that was just to hear the sort of worst news. So we got these scan results had come back, and we were hoping that because of lockdown, it was going to be a phone call on the results, because I'd said to Lisa, well, if they phone you, it's good news, because then obviously they don't want you in. If it's serious, I'm sure they're going to want to see you. So we're waiting for a letter, and they'd given us a letter, and it had said that, you've got an appointment at the hospital to see the oncologist. So it's a face-to-face appointment. And I just took it that I wasn't allowed in again. So we went to hospital, and I sat in the car park in the car, and Lisa wandered in, and I think she knew more than what I did then, but she wanted to try and protect me. And so she went in, and then the oncologist told her, the pastor was in there as well, the priest sat her down and said, we've just found the scan results and it's spread now to your liver, and we're now treating it as terminal. So it's now, we can now keep an eye on it, but it's a case of the chemo is just going to keep it at bay, and we'll just keep a track of how we can keep the pain in control, and then maybe talk about immunotherapy nearer the time. So she went into that meeting, and I can remember sitting in the car, and the next thing I saw was Lisa walking across the car park, and I just saw that dejected face of just defeat. And I knew then straight away what the news was going to be, because obviously if it was different, she'd have been a lot happier. And she just opened the door and said, there's no easy way to tell you, Dan. They've just told me it's terminal, and I will die of bowel cancer, but it's just a matter of when. So I'm that sort of bloke where I'd always drive. I'd be the sort of person at the weekend, if we were going out with the family, it was like, I'm driving, you can have a rest. And I feel quite bad now, because she got in the car and I said, Leash, you're going to have to drive home. I can't get my head around this one, because I'd sat in the passenger side anyway when I was waiting for her. And she drove us home, and it was the most silent journey I've ever had back from town. We just didn't hardly say a word, because we'd battled so hard to get through this, and then to have that news as well. And then you start thinking, right, we've now got to try and get this message over to the family, to the children. And how do you tell them? So she dropped me off at home, and she went down to speak to my mum, and I said, I'll come with you. And she went, no, I can deal with it. I'm going to go and tell your mum about it. So she went and told my mum.
And she went to see your mum. Was she very close to your mum?
Yeah, she was. Yeah, she went and dealt with that. She said, there's no point you coming in. You don't need to hear it. It's just something I can deal with. And she was incredibly strong.
Even with this, she was protecting you. How
yeah,
lovely.
yeah, she
What
was.
woman.
Yeah, she was very strong with that. So yeah, we found that out in April, and then from that point onwards, it was just really bad news. We didn't get any luck at all after that. I think, as Lisa would say, the whole journey we had, apart from that operation, with the luck that we had, that the fact that they caught the tumour, the most positive thing, well, it wasn't positive, but if you know what I mean, the most comforting period of that journey was actually the hospice. The fact that she could go and have that pain relief that would actually work. Everything else went against her. The fact it was through COVID, without, with the lack of chasing up the appointments, the chemo never really worked for her. Everything they tried, it was a matter of chasing something that was always ahead of us. Lisa
like
was
whack-a-mole.
Yeah. She was treated. She was diagnosed with it's called BRAF V600, which is a bowel cancer mutation, which is a lot more aggressive than normal, and it's hard to keep up with.
Tell me the name of that one more time, sorry.
It's BRAF, BRAF.
Yeah.
V600.
Thank you.
So
I only asked this because I know that Sarah had a particularly vicious version of this herself.
There's a group that I'm in touch with now that are all BRAF patients. I've got a friend of mine as well who I've done some fundraising for, who's BRAF, and it takes a lot more knowledge. I think the trouble is, a lot of the patients now are having to do their own work to try and get treatment. Even the oncologists don't quite know how to really deal with it, because it's such an aggressive form of cancer. They can't. There's no cure. There's obviously no cure for terminal cancer, but there's no way of keeping up with it. It's such a quick form. I went down to the research centre in London, Bowel Research Centre, and they told me that they're probably still 10, 15 years away from being able to comfortably treat someone with the BRAF version. So if you get diagnosed with that, it's a lot harder to come to terms with, because it's so aggressive. They can't really do anything for it.
Yeah, it's just heartbreaking. And I'm just wondering now about the kids. And I know they must be, your eldest must be grown men by now.
He's
Nearly
now, 16 now, yeah.
16, yeah. So I'm also aware they may not wish to be spoken about, so respect their privacy. But at what point did you tell them, and how did they take it? I mean,
Well,
obviously
this
not
is
well.
where it's really different, Rosie. And, we can talk about this because ideally you'd think, right, let's have a family sit down and go through it all and explain what's going on and how it's going to play out, and that Lisa was going to die at some point fairly soon. And no, I don't really use pass away. I'm quite,
No, we don't.
I'm quite point to
dead.
just get to the point. It's how it is.
Yeah.
And we just thought that's how it was going to be. You see, again, you see these things on TV, don't you? You go by the programs where you live in that kind of life where you think it's like a nightmare, isn't it?
It's like being
A
part of a
nightmare
television show.
show, and you're in it.
Yeah.
And what possibly more can go wrong? So we'd got past. We'd been given that news in April. I then decided to go into work part time, just mornings, and I'd spend every afternoon. So I'd get Lisa breakfast in the morning, make sure she was okay. I worked very close to home, so I could be home within 10 minutes. And I'd then go, and that helped me because not that I wanted to be away from Lisa at all, it just gave me a sense of just a bit of normality for a few hours. And then I can bring myself back into that environment in the afternoon where it's just care and being patient and trying to make sure she's comfortable. But the earlier times there, so throughout that summer, we spent time in the garden. We spoke a lot, but I'd like to think we spoke about what was going to happen afterwards. But you'd think you would, but you can't. It's just too difficult. I found it was too difficult for Lisa to talk about. She'd pass comment. I think we were doing these grapevines that Lisa had set up herself. She'd done them all up the side of the house. And she said to me, Dan, you've got to watch what I'm doing here because I'm not going to be here next year. And I'd go, don't talk like that. But and she was right. She wasn't here the following year. And she'd be quite straight to the point about it, but still very scared. And she'd say to me,
of course,
when you're on that journey with someone, you go for every decision with them and you're so close from start to finish. But again, when they've been given that diagnosis, it then becomes very different because they're on their journey and you're on your journey. Then you're that close together, but their fate, they know they're not going to be here for very long. And then you know that you're going to lose them and you've got this life ahead of you with the children, which becomes unthinkable. And you don't really think about it at the time because you're still waiting for that event to happen and you still can't believe it's happening. And I think, like I mentioned to John earlier, even though you've been told that it's terminal, there's still that hope that something might change.
There'll be some magic mystery claw.
Yeah.
And you do hear of it, don't you? You do hear of miracle patients. I've heard John use this term, the idea that once they are diagnosed as terminal, their journey and your journey become different because, yes, you're right, their life is going to end, yours isn't, but you're going to have to do a deep digging to carry on, and that's really scary to have that hanging over you. I mean, did you access counselling or anything as a family?
No, we didn't. No, and I didn't. I was offered counselling, but I said to Lisa, the time I'm going to take counselling for myself is time away from her and the children.
Yeah.
And I don't think any counselling then would have prepared me for what was about to come. I think counselling would have been something that I could have looked at afterwards. Lisa didn't take any counselling. She had chats with the cancer team at Macmillan, but we felt it was just something that I think it was something that as a team we felt like we were battling. We'd tried everything, and I don't know if you've seen that. You try apricot kernels, different diets, thinking that you can still beat it right up towards the end. Yeah, there's CBD oil and everything. It was just, and you're looking at all the information you can get online about what you can eat, what you should cut out sugar. At that point in time when we were looking at that, it was far too late, but there's still that, I can beat this. I can help Lisa beat this. We can. So when we found out, really, it was really towards the end, especially that trip to the hospice, which we'll get to in a little while, that feeling of defeat then was, no matter how hard we've tried, there's no getting away from this. You can be, it's not about what you eat and drink and how you conduct yourself. Bowel cancer is evil, and there's no getting away from it. It's just the most important thing at that time is then making sure she's as comfortable as possible, which is a fight in its own. To try and keep that pain away is constant. So
I know John's told me once he came back and someone else had looked after Sarah, and he could hear her screaming in pain, and they'd been like half an hour late changing the fentanyl patch or something, and the agony that just, I mean, the only thing I can compare it to is my epidural wearing off during childbirth as my uterus ruptured. But it's that sudden going from having the relief to just suddenly being back in pain.
And worrying when it's coming again. It's when you're out of pain, it's the fear of when it might come back again. And it's not only the fear that Lisa's feeling, it's the fear, I can only put it back down again, of when you have your little, when you've got a newborn and they've been crying for hours and hours and hours, and you just then settle them down and you think, oh, thank God for that. They've settled. And that was
now.
When Lisa was in that much pain, we'd try the levels of oxycodone, morphine, we'd try paracetamol, we'd give her everything that she could have up to its limit, and then just fingers crossed, hope for the best, hot water bottle, rub her back or whatever. And then I can remember laying beside her or just being with her every night, and when she finally went to sleep, it was just that relief. She's now calm.
She's got a little bit of respite from it.
So that was that terminal diagnosis, and that time at home with her was one thing that I found was a positive from the COVID situation. Had it not been for that, I wouldn't have been furloughed. I was furloughed to be to shield Lisa. I was able to do that for a little while, which really helped. But I still went into work for a little while just to keep my mind occupied. So then that summer went on really weirdly, because we kind of knew what was coming, but we didn't know how long. And I think my issue was, you tend to Google things. When we found out it spread to the liver, I know you shouldn't, but I looked into it, and if it's treated and you can keep on top of it, you can still get 3 to 4 years. So although it was a massive shock, there wasn't that panic of, we've only got a few months left. If we'd have been told at the terminal point, you've only got till December, which we had, everything would have been so different. We'd have spent every day talking. We'd have done loads of photos, loads of videos, letters. But you just think, oh well, we're going to be all right for now. Let's just keep an eye on things, scans, checkups, and we'll be able to assess it as time goes on. But we've got time. So we had another holiday planned down to St Ives in Cornwall with a touring caravan, and Lisa had gone in for this last lot of chemo in July, and it would really hit her hard. She'd lost all her hair, she'd lost loads of energy, she'd lost loads of weight, she was really weak, and it really knocked her back, and we were concerned that she could even come on holiday with us. But Lisa's way was always putting the children first. In all aspects. From when this started, it was always protect the children, make sure they're as less damaged as they can be. Some people might agree, some might not. Maybe it would have been better to give them the full picture from the start, but if I look at them now, we were lucky that hasn't damaged them so much. They seem really positive children.
I was going to ask you how they were now. because it's both of them a very tricky age, because I am a teenage boy myself, and I have a 10-year-old girl myself, so they are difficult ages.
That is difficult, very emotional ages, and James now just done his exams this summer, so he's now gone into college to do carpentry. Amber just turned double digits, 10, big milestone for her, of course. So
yes, Holly was
all
10
that,
in
and
June.
her image, her ways have changed. It's now give her more time in the mornings to do her hair before we go to school, not just walk out the door.
Attitude.
Yeah. So the holiday had been like, we'll book this touring holiday in Cornwall, where it was a place we'd been to before. We really enjoyed it, and it was like Lisa was determined to get down there. We knew it was going to be tough, but it was like, she's got to get down there. When we were loading the caravan up, her mum and my mum were helping, and I'd obviously had more time off to get prepared for this trip, because it's an 8-hour journey from where we are, so it's a bit of a long slog. And when we were getting things ready for the trip, I noticed more myself how more deteriorated Lisa had been, and she was getting like more and more weak, where I just didn't think it was a good idea to go. I felt that she wasn't really ready for it, and I questioned it, and she said, no, we've got to go down because the kids need the holiday as much as anybody else. So we loaded up the caravan. I got in the car. We had a terrible journey down there through the night. Lisa was being sick into one of them sick bowls. We must have stopped 3 or 4 times on the way down there, chucking it down with rain. Then you get down there and you've got the day to set everything up with your big awning and that. And when we'd got a good setup, once it was set up, it was lovely. But it was hard work to do it with Lisa being ill as well. But that was just something we had to do. And we got down there. The day we set up, Lisa hadn't eaten nothing all day. She was feeling quite faint, looking really pale, just wanting to lay down all the time. And I'm thinking, we shouldn't have come down here, but I don't know. It's what she wanted, so we've just got to get on with it. And our good friends came with us with their touring caravan. They'd set their lot up, and we'd got another group of friends staying on a site just down the road as well in a big tent. So I'd got a support group down there to help, which was good. I'd got a lot of people at home as well that I could call on. So I'd got help at the time. That Sunday, the first day there, she really didn't show any signs of improvement, and I was getting quite worried. I'd been down at St Ives Pharmacy, and they'd done a transfer of prescription from our local GP. I'd managed to pick a few things up, and we're all just thinking, what I'd done, Rosie, I'd put it down to a whole cycle of chemo, and this was the end of it, where it just really had taken everything out of her. But at least now things were going to get a little bit better because she's had that chemo. So it was a matter of now the holiday had come at the best time, because she can then try and get some energy and some rest in a place she loved being. But it didn't seem to happen that day. So I said to my friend Ollie, I was like, if things don't improve tomorrow, we're going to have to go to A&E. I'm going to have to take Lisa in, because it's getting quite serious now. I'm worried about the fact she hasn't hardly eaten. So
I know that dehydration is a real risk, isn't it? In cancer patients, yeah.
And it's just such a worry about. She looked so unwell as well. It was terrible to see. Anyway, I'd said to Ollie, I'm going to go and speak to Lisa. We have to get to hospital. As I'd gone in the caravan to get her out, I'd got her up, and she collapsed. And her eyes went up into her head, and she just completely passed out. And I worried. I thought the worst.
Of course.
We managed to get her out of the caravan and sit her down, and couldn't get any response from her at all until Ollie had come rushing out with a bottle of Lucozade, managed to get her to drink some of that and get something into her. Phoned the ambulance up. They were brilliant. I think they were there within 7 or 8 minutes. They'd done their bit. They got her into the ambulance and done all the checks, made her comfortable. And it was a mad panic, because when she collapsed, James was there. And James was like, Dad, what's going on? What's happened to Mum? And I just thought it was a case of the fact that she hadn't eaten. She'd been really unwell and just hadn't got over the chemo. So she went in, and I thought, well, I'll just follow the ambulance like you do. But then because it was still COVID, it was 2021, I think it was July, August, beginning of August. And it was still like hospitals were still having that protocol where you couldn't just go and visit. You had to do all your tests and everything. So I wasn't allowed to go in with her. I was told I had to stay away until they found out what the problem was and just keep phone call information. That was all. So when the ambulance went, I was left just, oh, now what do I do? What is the problem? How bad is it? And again,
And
her words were to
kids
me,
looking to you for answers, I imagine.
Yeah. And Lisa said when she came round, she said, just make sure you take the kids out, give them a normal day. We'll talk later. And all I could do for Lisa when we were going through this period was just carry out her wishes. If that's what she said, that's what we did. And I said to the rest of the group, we've just got to go on what she says, because she's going through this. We're able to take the kids out. What's the point in sitting around here? It's going to make them worse. Let's just go.
As a mum, I know that even if I'm mildly ill, I feel so guilty that my kids aren't going out and doing things. So for her to know that you were taking care of them and giving them experiences. And actually, I've written a couple of pages back in my many notes I've just written here. I'm just hearing that he tried so hard to give her everything that she needed and wanted during this. And I'm hearing a lot of this as you talk, this desperate need to help her and the love that you felt for her, and this willingness to do whatever she asked of you, Dan. Like, it's so kind. I'm hearing so much kindness from you and so much love, and it's making me feel really sad listening to this. But anyway, as you carry on.
It is a sad story. It really is. And nothing went for us. So she'd gone off to Truro Hospital. I said, right, yeah, we'll take the kids out then, let's go. So that first day, it wasn't so bad because I just thought it was a case of her being just, dehydrated or something anyway. So we just went off thinking, yeah, it was going to be fine. We'll be all right. We'll just find out later and we'll go and pick her up later. And then it got to like 8 o'clock that night and I'd not heard nothing. I couldn't get hold of anybody at the hospital. And we'd had that first day out. And then all of a sudden from that point on, you're on your own, aren't you? Like, everything you're doing in that caravan, it's a decent caravan. It's not, it wasn't like we were slumming it, but you've got everything to do on your own. You've got to keep that brave face. You've got all the cooking to do, the washing the kids' stuff. You've got to give them answers that you think are not going to hurt them too much, but be honest enough
and
to say
you don't know.
It was like, to me as well, it was more of a, not like a pre-grief. I haven't cried much through all of this, but I can remember being really emotional, just going around the side of the caravan, not knowing, just not being able to hold it in, because I felt it wasn't, obviously I was upset. It wasn't for me. I felt so sorry for Lisa. I felt that she'd tried so hard to get on this bloody holiday. She'd pushed herself so much and she'd not even got a day down there before she's back in hospital again. So she'd gone into the hospital, and I then got some information on the Monday night saying they've got Lisa in. She's severely dehydrated. She's on a drip. It's serious. We're not sure how it's going to go, but what we've done is we've done some tests. We've found out there's another bowel obstruction. So the bowel cancer is now obviously back. It's caused another obstruction, and all we can do is hope that we can fit a stent in her bowel, which is it's a keyhole procedure. So it's not straightforward, but it's something that should work. As long as we can get this stent done, then she should be able to come back and you'll be able to go home. Otherwise, if we can't do the stent, then it's looking quite serious. We just need to get, and they said we can't do the stent until we've got some nutrients into her to build her energy up, because at the moment she's not strong enough for the procedure. So then the next day we go down to Watergate Bay in Newquay. Of knowing this, and I'm knowing that, so you're putting on that real weird atmosphere of you're seeing life going around you. Everyone's having happy, smiley faces in the summer, ice creams. The children are playing on the beach, and I'm waiting for this call to think, is she going to have the stent? Because I was going to find out on the Tuesday if the stent was going to go ahead or not. And if it wasn't, then it was going to be a case of rush her back home in the ambulance straight into palliative care. So we've gone away on holiday knowing that she might come home that week in the palliative care ambulance straight back to Suffolk. I'm thinking, well, I really hope this stent works. I hope they can just do it. Just
clinging on to the hope.
Yeah. At least then I know I can carry on this week with the children and just somehow just buy us some time.
Yeah, just keep putting one foot in front of the other until we have to deal with the next thing.
Exactly. So yeah, that day on Watergate, by Cremba is really weird. Usually I'd be really worried, but we'd set up all the other gang had set up all the beach stuff on the beach, and the tide had come in, and you know when you think, oh, we'll be fine, it's not going to get our stuff, and it was getting closer and closer, all the chairs. Usually I'm the sort of person who go, right, come on, we need to move all that stuff.
Tide, aren't you?
Yeah. I'm the sort of person to be really OCD and go, we need to move everything now and make sure it doesn't get wet and covered in sand. But I sat there and I just couldn't care less. And
no, it doesn't matter, does it?
The others weren't that bothered. And then in the end, it did come in, and everyone's flip-flops and chairs and bags were all in the sea. And I think this is such a surreal day. Everything's going on around you, but you're living this real weird life. That day when I told the children that Mum was really ill in hospital, it was serious, but hopefully they're going to be able to give her the stent and she'll come back and we'll have the rest of the holiday together. They told me that evening that I could go and see her, and I went in, and I was a bit of a mess. I've always tried to keep really strong because I thought I might not see her again. I thought that might have been it. So when I did get a chance to go and see her, she sat up in bed and said, "What's wrong?" I was like, "Well, I thought we'd lost you." She said, "Oh, I'm not going yet. We're going to get the stent done. It'll all be fine, and I'll come out, and then we'll have the rest of the holiday." And then I just went back with that energy, just knowing that
she'd managed to give you, even in that stage of her disease.
I think it's when you go through that, knowing that you might have lost someone, and then being told that news is such a rush. It's just so exhilarating to think. I think we all need a bit of that. I know we shouldn't, but sometimes in life, you take people for granted, and then I know we know this, we've been through it. You've lost your person, but when you go down the street and you hear couples arguing, you just feel like saying to them sometimes, if only you really knew that you could lose this person tomorrow and you'd never want this situation. I know that's just life, isn't it? But I can remember having that exhilarating feeling of knowing that I wasn't going to lose her. We've got another chance.
There's more time.
Yeah, so they did the stent. It was tough. That week was really hard because I knew then that we were in a real tough situation of not knowing where it was going to go. And I'd got on the phone. You kind of look in the information about what stents do, and they were right as well. A stent should usually give you about another 3 months, because in the end, the stent can't contain them blockages. It's just opening it up for a certain amount of time until things get worse. But it was just a matter of buying some time, and it did that for us.
And I'm thinking, this is kind of the desire for Lisa to stay around, obviously for you, but also for the children. You, as a mother, you father, of course, I can't just speak for mother, but the idea of missing a second of your children growing up must be so scary. And I'm sort of struggling to put it into words, really, because I often think about Sarah and how, knowing that she was going to leave Holly without mum and John without a wife, and to know that that's coming. Yes, you can have the conversations about it should you wish to, but you're waiting for that. Was it the hammer to drop? You're living under this fear.
Yeah. You're living a kind of a false torture life. It is torture. Every moment is torture. But that when the stent was successful, she came back out of hospital. the day I went to bring her out of Truro Hospital was the best day ever, because we'd got her back for a little while, and she couldn't do much back at the site. She sat and rested, and Lisa knew that she wasn't able to do much, but she got to see James and Amber do a bit of swimming, and it was then preparing for the trip home. And then we were then told that all the information had gathered at Truro, which I must say, Truro were absolutely amazing. I'd got told, there was a little snippet there, I'd got told via phone call from one of the nurses when I'd rung in one morning that Lisa's cancer had spread to every other organ. It was a case of she'd have to go home straight away for palliative care, and I need to call the family. And I've told two girls next door this, that Lisa's two friends, I've gone and relayed that information. And it's just it's really, it was so weird, because we're obviously then thinking it's got so much worse. Then that same afternoon, the doctor had rung me and said that information I'd just been given was false information. They'd had a problem that day at the hospital, and they'd given me information from somebody else's records. So although Lisa's cancer although the cancer was bad and she'd had the stent, it hadn't actually spread to the esophagus or the lungs or the brain. So I then had to go and have a sit-down meeting with the doctor at Truro, and he had to apologise to him to say, look, we've had a really bad day. Yeah, Lisa's it is severe, but what the information you were told earlier about it being a rush job back home, it's bad, but it's not that bad.
Yes.
So you've put yourself through all them situations all the time, being...
Bloody hell.
Yeah. But we got her back, and she had the rest of the holiday and a long journey home. And then after that, it was an appointment at the hospital to check on the information which was given to us from Truro. And they then told us what we're going to do now is we're going to monitor it each month and then plan on immunotherapy, and hopefully it will stabilise.
What is immunotherapy? I probably should know this in my line of work, but what is it?
It's another way of treating the symptoms and treating the cancer, of trying to shut it down, stop it spreading.
Right.
And keeping
We're
things
talking buying
at bay.
time here, aren't we?
Yeah. It was. Yeah. Of course, we knew then we'd been told months before it was terminal, but we were told then that it was something that we need to just hope that we can still keep getting through these months, and make sure we monitor it and keep on top of all the appointments. So we were still,
and you
again,
hear stories of people living years with terminal cancer, don't you?
Yeah, and that's what we thought. I know. Even after a stent, we thought that, but we really didn't know that when we came back from Cornwall, we'd only got till December. That was the trouble. So we'd got, Lisa's wishes were straight after the holiday was to have a trip into town and get Amber's ears pierced. She wanted to make sure that was done. And that was our real last trip into town together as a family. I'd got some time that day with them. And she sat with Amber and got her ears done. We had a little walk around town until she'd had enough, then came home. September was a pretty good month. It was weird, because that month was no chemo, realising what we'd just been through in Cornwall and being thankful for the fact that we'd got home, and being quite sort of open to the fact that we knew where things were going, but we just had to make the most of every moment. And then I've got going through all this as well. I'm still trying to train for 2 marathons. I'd got Brighton and London coming up, so I decided to do back-to-back marathons for Bowel Research UK.
As you do.
Yeah. So I'm trying to train for them, then thinking to myself, I was a bit worried about going down there, because I'd booked everywhere for Lisa to come as well, so she could support me, but she was clearly not well enough to come. So I said to her, I'm gonna just cancel them, and I think everyone will understand that I've raised the money, they've got the money, but I'll try and defer it until next year. And she said, no, you've got to go and do it. It's good for you. It's what you've trained for. It's kept your head in the right place.
I was going to say, I bet it helped your head immensely.
Yeah. So you need to go and do it. Take a couple of, well, take your support group with you, a few good friends, which, you know, they're amazing. They came with me and we did Brighton, which was just ridiculous. It was a really hot day. I trained really hard, but how could I find the time to really train properly when I'm fatigued anyway by having them nights
It's
and
not
days.
a priority, is it?
No, and I wasn't really. I was fit enough to do it. I'd done the running, I'd done the long runs, but I was too fatigued. I'd lost too much weight myself because I hadn't really been eating properly because I was more concerned about Lisa. But I did it. I did Brighton, and then about 2-3 weeks later went and done London. But for me, it was just do them for Lisa. So if she can see me do them, that's something that she can be proud of as well. So
proud.
Yeah, and she got to see me on the TV and do the London Marathon. So
I wish I'd done London.
It was an experience like no other. It really was. I mean, if anyone ever gets a chance to sign up and do it for a charity,
don't, because I know what I'm like. I run about 2 miles every couple of days, and immediately went to, I'm going to do the London Landmarks half, and then it'll be the London Marathon. But at the moment, I'm trying to keep my running for pleasure.
Yeah,
because I found training for a marathon very, very hard. And I mean, I was in active addiction at the time, so it didn't help. But it enabled me to, in fact, my dad bought me a book. I don't know whether you've heard of it, actually, called Outrunning the Demons.
Yeah.
And it's a collection of stories of people that ran because terrible things happened to them. And it is my kind of, I'm not a runner. I'm not built like a runner. I'm never going to win any races. But there's something about using your body to be free and the power of your own body pushing you forward at a time when you feel like you can barely walk through treacle. And I said to you just before we came on mic, look at me making this all about me, but when I crossed that finish line I did the Manchester Marathon, I noticed I didn't say I ran most of it. And I remember holding Tabby in my arms and Monty's hand, Hector had fallen asleep, and crossing that finish line and just feeling like I'd done something incredible, something that the old me would never have been able to do, because I can even remember once saying to Ben, do you reckon I could do a marathon if I put my mind to it? And he was just like, no.
Of course you could.
Yeah. But I don't know as I could have necessarily trained for one whilst going through what you were. I mean,
I think it was because we'd raised so much. My first one in Brighton was 4:26. And
it's still so good.
There's a lot of people towards the end were just keeling over with heat exhaustion because it was an exceptionally hot day, September the 12th, 2021. A real hot day. I'd gone off too quick. I was silly. I'd gone, I'll be fine. I'm going to crack a sub-4 first time, which was really a silly idea. And went off too fast, just hit the wall. First time I'd ever hit the wall, and it really hurt. And I learned a lot about marathon running in one day there completely. So London 3 weeks later was 4:06 because I'd managed, my hydration was better. So close. Yeah, it was so close as well. But I think it was the experience of London which was more character
I wish
building.
I'd done. I couldn't get into London, so I googled the flattest one and dragged a friend with me. And our aim was sub 6 hours. So you can see where my fitness level is compared to yours. And I came in actually before her, and at 59 minutes 42 seconds or something. And I was like, yes, we did it in under 6 hours.
The time shouldn't be a focus. It's just finishing. I've always said to everybody, it's finish line, not finish time. We're all different.
And I felt the fact that I was even able to commit to something, stick to it and do it, which I think just doing that is an achievement. Anyway, we have completely gone off a lovely tangent. But bring me back into the hell that was your life.
That's it. Yeah, we got out of there for a bit, didn't we?
We escaped.
We'd got to September and October, done the marathons, and Lisa had decided that we'd have one more week away in the October half term up to the Norfolk coast. That was her wish. And I'd said before, I don't think this is a good idea. You're really not well enough. She wanted to take our dog with us as well. It's a Labradoodle, which was only about a year old at the time. And
I've got a golden doodle.
Yeah, and you know what they're like, really energetic, and our one especially. But I'd done it. I said we've got to go for her. We've got to give it our best shot. So we went up to Cromer Way. We took all the meds up there with us, all the morphine. We'd spoke to the Macmillan unit about what we might need, and then we were then also in touch with the hospice team, the pain team, to get advice off them. So we were given like 5 mil of oxycodone per night and more if needed. So it was just a matter of getting through that week, and we'd even taken a wheelchair up with us just to try and perhaps get Lisa out. And still at that point in time, I still thought that we'd have more time. And I remember sitting with a friend saying, let's get to Christmas, get through Christmas, and then what we'll do is we'll sit and have a proper chat with the children and tell them exactly where we're at and that we might only have weeks left. So Cromer didn't go well. It was we're in a caravan with the dog, 2 children, and Lisa up all night in settling for an hour or two, but then needing more pain relief. So I'm literally awake 24/7, trying to keep things going. And then that was, but the thing is, before that, it was like that at home. So there was no respite then. It was just a matter of you just
Doing it in a
kind
smaller
of put out
space.
fires every day. And in a smaller space, it's somewhere different where you're not used to it was even harder. But we stuck it out, and Lisa would stay there in the day and rest, and I'd take the children with the other friends down to the beach for a walk. And the weather was quite good that week for October, so we managed to do a little bit. And then it got to the Thursday, and Lisa had phoned Cara and said Cara had visited us that week, and Lisa had said to her, "I'm ringing you because I don't want to upset Dan. I need to come home. If Dan's too busy, can you organise for someone to come and get me?" And I said, "No, I'll definitely take you home. Don't worry, it's fine. We've done our best." So I managed to keep the children there with our other friends. I brought Lisa home straight to the doctors, got all the medication she needed, and she stayed at home with her mum for the rest of the week. It was only another day or two. Then I went back up the Norfolk coast on the Friday to pack everything up to get back for the weekend,
Come
and
back
then
again.
to try and look at the issue we've got coming. Basically, it's getting a lot worse. We're mid-October, and there just didn't seem any way out. It was just getting to the point where we were struggling to cope, and it was getting to both of us. I think when you're really close and you need to vent, don't you? You need to take it out on someone, and it doesn't matter how much you love each other. Lisa had me there all the time, so it was going to be me that got some flack, and I could see from what she was going through that she needed to tell someone. And she would lay there. There was nights where she'd lay there and say, "Dan, I don't want to be here anymore." And for someone that loved the children that much, to say that she didn't want to be here anymore, it goes to show how much pain she was in. Amber's birthday, I think it was a little bit before we went away, actually. Amber's birthday is the 17th of October. Again, being a great mum she would always be the one that organised all the birthdays. She'd have everything planned out to perfection. I just need to turn up and be there and help. And I knew something was really bad. I knew it was getting serious because that birthday of Amber's, she'd got a couple of friends stayed over. We'd got some presents on the table, and I'd pop in the room to say, Elisa, I'd say, right, we're going to open the presents soon. Do you want to get up? And she didn't get out of bed all day. She didn't even see Amber that day. And that's someone that would have done her absolute best to have been there. And
she
that's
just
just really sad. Sad for her, sad for us to see, knowing that it got to her that much where she couldn't leave the bed. So yeah, the caravan week came and went. We'd got back from that, and that end of October time become one of the more emotional nights, where November the 5th, we always try to do a bit of a firework do up here. We'd get the gang round and have the fire pits and and then have a bit of a do. She said, "You've got to do it this year, Dan. I need everyone here." I said, "Oh, it's going to be a lot of work." I wasn't being negative, but I could see that she just needed the rest. But we did it. We had, hot chocolates and some food, and Lisa's mum helped out as well. And I remember standing outside and looking in the windows and could see Lisa sitting there, and it was her way of having everyone round here, and a little bit of a weird way of saying it, but it might have been a way of her way of knowing that it might be the last chance she gets to see people properly, and to perhaps say goodbye, but do it in a less discreet way. Yeah. Because she got to 8 o'clock that night and said, "I can't take it no more. I'm just going to have to go and have a lay down." And she's got so tired. But we did the night for her, and it went as well as it could. That was November the 5th, obviously. Then we had some really tough nights where we were up all night, not managing too well with the pain. We had to put a lidocaine patch on her back, which was meant to, that's got like an anaesthetic way of dealing with some back pain. She was on steroids to reduce the tumours in the liver. I'd then, times where I'd lay beside her and put my hand on her waist, and I could actually feel the lumps, the tumours. It was weird, where you just think, how is this happening? And it's that shocking realisation that why. And we'd got to that point where we couldn't keep it at bay. The pain was too much, so we'd have the pain team round. They then said that we'll have to apply for a bed at the hospice. It might take a day or two, but we're going to try and get you in as soon as we can, hopefully for some respite. That was on the Tuesday. They went at 10 o'clock in the morning after a visit. They'd got me and Lisa in the living room and checked her over. By 12 o'clock, they'd already phoned up and said, "Actually, we've already got a bed here. Can you come in?" And that was that quick, "We've got to move. Let's pack a bag." And bless her, she stood up, and it was like, right, we've got to get this done. And she got up, packed a bag. I was quite angry because I just thought this might be the last time she sees home. And we drove to town, drove to the hospice that day, and it was just a real flat, quiet journey.
Were the kids
like I said earlier, no, they were at school, and they weren't in the house. Thankfully, we went off, and it was just like we'd been beaten. That was like, this is it. We can't do any more. We've tried it all ourselves. There's nothing more we can do at home. But we were hoping that she'd go into the hospice for a couple of days. And I've got to say that St Nicholas Hospice in Bury were absolutely amazing from start to finish. Everyone there, they were just all angels. We'd got there hoping it was going to be a couple of days, and then home again. And unfortunately, it wasn't. She left home on the 16th of November, and 5 weeks later, she died on the 19th of December. And Lisa dealt with it very privately, whereas during that 5 weeks in the hospice, she only saw me and the children. She saw her mum twice. She saw my mum once, and she only saw her friends the night or two before she died. But that was my decision to do that, because I felt at that time I had to try and open up and give others a chance to come and see her.
Yeah.
Because if I didn't, it would just have been me sat there, and I don't think I'd have lived with myself afterwards, if you know what I mean. I would have felt too guilty. So she kept everything really private. She didn't want people seeing her in that condition. So yeah, we were 5 weeks at the hospice, and watching the bowel cancer take hold was just, it's just something that you shouldn't have to see. It was just incredibly hard. Yeah.
And it has, I know from speaking to John, that the medication and the pain can cause them to behave in ways that aren't them. So that then you're left with your last memories of them, being a version of them that you don't recognize, because they can hallucinate, they can become quite angry or aggressive. And it's not directed at you. It's a side effect of this evil fucking disease. But that must have been very challenging. I'm assuming that Lisa experienced similar sort of episodes.
Yeah, it was challenging. There was a time towards the end where it was quite a private thing to talk about. It was she'd needed to go to the toilet, and they'd got a commode in there, and I said, "Look, I can help you get on the commode. I can help you. That's what I'm here for." And she just broke down, started crying, and she said, "Can you just get out? I can't handle it now. I don't want you to see me like this." I said, "Well, I'm here to help." So the nurses came out, and I went off, and she said, "Dan, go and get a coffee. Come back. We'll help Lisa out." And Julie, the nurse, came out and said, "You've got to understand that she's still really conscious that you are a husband, and this is something that the last thing she's going to want you to see at this point." Even up to that moment, she was still thinking about what I might or might not see, and I think I'd probably be the same.
It strips the humanity from you. It strips everything from you. It's taken her hair, it's taken her bowel, it's taken her life. And perhaps her dignity, she felt, was the only thing that she could cling on to at this point.
Yeah, she was selfless towards the end. She really was. Even towards the hospice team, she would always put them first and not worry about what she really wanted. But the hospice to her was a sanctuary. She's documented that. But we never really got a chance to say a goodbye. There wasn't none of that, because we'd thought there might be that time where we could sit and talk, but then there was that turn of the tide where things got progressively bad quicker, and she became a lot more kind of out of it. And then there was no way I could have a proper conversation with her then. It was just a matter of put on a brave face, so when she saw me, she thought things were still normal. It'd come full circle where she was on the ball right up until the end, but then there was that last few days where even you could see on the record of her text messages, she was really good at her grammar and spelling. Her texts were always spot on, but that was really vague towards the end, like a really weird message which she couldn't work out. So the morphine had obviously taken more of an effect, and
Sarah thought there were chickens in the room at the end.
Yeah, we had a few things like that with Lisa, but so you're watching that deterioration in front of you, knowing that you want to say what you want to say, but that's not the right thing to do it in front of her then, because it's going to make her feel worse. So she'd phone up my mum and dad and say, "I'll be home for Christmas, don't worry, I'll be out soon." And
so she didn't want to accept?
No, she didn't. I think she phoned her. She died on the 19th of December.
Were you with her?
I think she phoned up on like the 17th, my mum and dad, and said, "I won't be much longer. I'll get out soon and I can have a Christmas with you." But I sat there knowing that it wasn't going to happen. But the hospice dealt with it brilliantly.
Sorry, I interrupted you there just to ask if you were with her at the end.
Yeah, I was right. I was there, and I'm glad I was. I was glad, and it could have been different, because that morning I'd been there with her right through that Saturday night, and I didn't tend to do that because I had to get home to keep things normal for the kids. Because it was a Saturday night, there wasn't that rush, and I knew obviously it was getting a lot worse. So I decided, so that Saturday evening, we'd had a lot of people come up to the hospice that night to say their goodbyes. And I hadn't really seen Lisa that evening, because my job was to orchestrate it all and organise it all. So you're kind of getting people in the hospice, making sure they do the tests for COVID, then kind of limit the time they spend with Lisa, because you don't want to tire her out too much.
Yeah.
And the whole evening just went, and it was so exhausting, because you've got that emotion of watching everybody say them last words to her. Then we had James up there as well, and the panic on his face when he knew that this was going to be the last evening with his mum. He went in to see her, and then I had to have a few more honest words with him. And then he decided to walk back down the corridor in a panic and just sit with her. So I went in with him, and he sat on the chair. I sat next to him. And I think that one of the main reasons he's doing so well now is because they got time to sit together and say it's got to be the most difficult time of his life, where she said to him, James, be kind, look after Amber, look after Dad, it'll all be okay. And I'm sitting there holding his hand while he's holding Lisa's hand. And it's like you're looking down on it as if it's some kind of bad nightmare, but it's real life. But then you're also thinking these words might be the most valuable thing that he ever hears, because there's going to be no more time. And this was the Saturday evening, and she died on the Sunday afternoon. So he got that. He got them. They said goodbye to each other, which, as heartbreaking as it was, means so much. Then on the Sunday, I'd spent all Saturday night there with her, holding her hand, and she'd got her hand around my little finger, and I knew then, because she'd got, like, it was just a case then of giving her a glass of water when she needed it, and the glass of water had a straw in, and it would be normal, drink through the straw, and she got so weak she couldn't suck up through a straw, so that the hospice nurse gave her like one of them little, like the kid speakers with the little teat things on. So she was having one of them.
A massive roll of kitchen roll. Sorry, because this is making me a bit emotional. Carry on.
She'd got this beaker of water, and she'd just shake my hand when she needed a drink. And it got to like 6:30 in the morning, and the hospice nurse said, right, are you going home, Dan? I was like, well, I think I'll stay. But I should go home really, because I need to go home and have a shower and have a few hours sleep so I'm ready for the next day, because I obviously didn't realise it was going to happen that next day. Came home, and they said to me, if you don't go now, you're going to have to wait another hour, because we're going to see to another patient. So that kind of gave me the urge to get home. Yeah, so I need to get back. Went back and came back up that afternoon, and Lisa's mum was there with her brother, and her friend Sarah was there. And it was just the usual routine of, you go in, let the others go in first. I'll just sort of hold the fort and make sure everything's all right, make some cups of tea. And then Sarah went in to see Lisa, and she came out within about 10 minutes and said, Dan, I think you need to go in. And I was like, and I just, something came over me. I just knew that's weird. Why would she say that? And I went in, and then she said also, can I have my mum in here as well? And Billy, a brother. And we sat in there, and I'm not a spiritual person really. I'm open-minded, but it was like she knew what was happening. It was to me, I'm going through this process. I don't know what's going to happen. Just be here with me, hold my hand, and this is how it's going to play out. And I was petrified. Lisa's mum was there with us, and she was obviously really upset. Then Lisa said, I just want Dan in the room now. So I'm in there on my own, and the nurse had said, look, if you need anything, just give me a shout. And Lisa's wriggling about, really in discomfort. And it's to that point where you just think, what is going on? How can this be happening? Because it's the worst thing, isn't it? It's the worst thing you can ever see. And she battled right to the end. She was conscious right to the end as well. And we've since found out, when I'd got letters back from the hospital, that it was more than likely a cardiac arrest right at the end, because when it's a young person fighting cancer, at the last moments, their heart is still quite healthy.
Yeah, I've heard
so
this. Their
heart really tries its hardest to fight it, and in the end, it can't do any more. So it was quick towards the end, but it wasn't nice. It was just really difficult to watch. And then you can't unwatch that, can you? You can't erase that from your mind. It never goes. You think about it every day.
On B-roll in your head, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Oh, Dan, I'm so sorry. It's made me cry. I am so sorry. And I don't know whether it's the thought of having to have that conversation with one of my children, having a son the same age, I don't know. It's just such a waste of a life, and a woman who sounded so full of life and love and kindness and compassion. And I know it's such a cliche, but why do the fucking good ones go first, man?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, it's definitely right. Yeah.
But there's
You
so
shouldn't.
many assholes out there.
There's so many, yeah, and they live till they're like 90, don't they?
Yeah.
I know we shouldn't be bitter, but
we can't help
always the
it. We're
good
allowed to be a
ones.
bit bitter, Dan.
Yeah,
We're widowed.
yeah.
We're allowed a little bit of bitterness.
We should. But then
Well,
the next morning, we're here, and then I've got to tell Amber. And how do you tell
I
an
was just going to
8-year-old?
say to you,
You know, you have to find them words that get. And if you can, I've always said, if you can get through that, you know, you've been there, John's been there, and everyone else that follows the show. If you get through them situations in life and have to go through them really uncomfortable times, you come out a different person. And I think if you can survive that, you'll always be a strong person. You'll always be able to deal with things as well as you can. You can have your bad days, but I just thought to myself, well, we've just got to do it. There's no easy way of telling her.
you don't have a choice.
There's no choice. I think I walked in the living room 2 or 3 times and walked back out again and said, I can't do this. And my friend said, you've got to, Dan. You can't wait. So I just bundled her up and just said, I'm really sorry. Mum's gone. And she was really unwell, in so much pain. And again, I don't know if anyone can relate to it, but when Lisa was in that pain towards the end, and you don't take this the wrong way, you don't will them to go, because you shouldn't do, but you just you don't want to see them go through it anymore. You know, once they've gone, that the pain is finished, and then there's that release as well when it hits home. But
yeah,
you know it's going one way, so why see them suffer anymore? So
yeah, and it's John's spoken about this to me, and he said it's a really conflicting emotion, because you don't want them to die. Of course you don't. You don't
No,
want
of
to never
course.
see them again. But you also cannot bear watching the person you love in that level of pain. And to know that there is absolutely no coming back from it, you just want them to be free of the pain.
Yeah, that's all you can. It's so tough to come to terms with, but it's then over, isn't it? And then you start that process of wondering where you go next and what happens.
What do I do now?
Oh, it's just a different world, isn't it?
Yeah, you're not the same person. You're not. You are a very different person. The world you inhabit is different. Everything changes, and people tend to think you've lost your spouse, which is awful, and the children have lost their mother. But it's the loss of your best friend, your confidant, the lack of physical touch. You lose your future plans. You are left as the keeper of the memories. And we talked a little bit in Wash Up that we put out today. It's Friday today, isn't it? About this kind of responsibility of being keeper of the memories. And you can become almost obsessed with it. And I have to say that being a widowed dad, sounds tougher, because you don't necessarily have that female network around you anyway.
No.
You've got, John has talked about, do people want their kids staying around the single bloke's house? It's all
I
a
did
bit.
that. Yeah, last Friday, Amber had her birthday, and on the Friday night she'd got this teepee set up, Cozy Dreams set up, which is like all these little teepee tents in the kitchen here, and I'd got Amber
I did that
and
one, yeah.
5 school friends. It was an amazing setup, but Lisa would have been, come on girls, you should go to bed now. Your mum would want it to go to sleep now, it's getting late. I've got 4 or 5 girls running around the kitchen flat out, and I can't really tell them. I can only be subtle with what I say, because I'm a bloke. I'm like, right, girls, it might be enough now. You've slipped over far too many times, or you've had too many sweets at 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah, there's now
And
3
it's just
kilos
chaos.
of Haribo in you. I think in those situations, you just have to let it go. I had I bought a bell tent because I'm impulsive like that, and because it costs less than hiring one. So we've had it up a couple of times in the summer, and one year I had Holly and her mates, but it was her 10th birthday actually too. I decorated it, and I slept out here in the studio. We have a guest bed, and I slept out here with the tent outside. So I thought, I'm not sleeping in the tent with them, but the house felt a little bit too far away, so I slept in the annex. I got about as much bloody sleep as they did. But that's it. Even that you're managing to do that. You're managing to throw birthday parties. Like,
you have to show up, Rosie. You have to show up. That's what I've said before. there's no right or wrong. You can't judge anyone for how they deal with this. You shouldn't do. We're all different. But one thing you've got to do when you've got children, you have to show up each day, and
Yeah, you do.
there's no getting away from it. That the children need you, and if it's my job now to do that for Lisa, if I didn't, I'd be letting her down.
Yeah, we
And that's
carry
why
that
the
baton.
fundraising, we've fundraised now since I started doing the marathons as a group, with the hikes, the girls' walks, everything we've done, the dinner dances, we've now nearly touched £50,000.
Goodness me, that's incredible.
Yeah, which is
well done, you, Dan.
a support group together, and friends and family, local businesses have all supported us. Been really positive about the journey. It's helped me with the fitness and the running. It's helped us as a group get through it.
Still running?
Yeah, I'm doing this.
You still run
this
regularly?
month. Yeah, I'm terrible. I don't stop. I'm doing 5K or more a day in November for Men's Mental Health Awareness.
Nice.
Which, I think for me is just keeping a target and keep out there, keep going, keep outdoors.
So you do ice baths as well?
No, I haven't. I've never ice bathed. I've not tried it yet. I know it's meant to be a good thing, but no,
we do it. So
do you do it? Is it good?
Yeah, well, we started off with one of the inflatable ones, which is sort of like a tall paddling pool that you fill with, but they're quite labour intensive because you have to keep putting ice in them, and especially in the summer to keep the temperature down. They get a bit gross. But the mental health benefit for me it's difficult because I'm trying so many things, but I find it really helps with clarity. So I do 7 minutes at 7 degrees, and I do a 7-minute meditation while I'm in there. Obviously, I've got to overdo it, haven't I? And then quickly run down the garden in my dry robe and into a boiling hot shower. But it seems to be doing something. My energy levels are better. I'm finding that I'm able to stack my thoughts a little bit better and not get quite so overwhelmed. Yeah, you can pick up the inflatable ones for about 70 quid. So they're always worth a try if before you go as full throttle as we do and get one that's plumb electric. But it's a lot easier.
Sounds good, yeah. I think I'll give it a try, but it's just...
Yeah, and you should see.
It's really helped that being positive in an adverse situation has really helped and creating a legacy as well. It's kept Lisa's name out there, and it's given us all more of a purpose. So I don't know how much further it will go on. I think I'll always run, I'll always do something active, but how much more we can ask for. But everyone has been so amazing with the sponsorship, and and I've done stuff now that I could never have dreamt I would have done. Ultra marathons, running like 30-40 miles.
Stop it.
But it's just something that it's made me a better person, and to come out of this to say that as well is something that I didn't think I'd ever say. I thought I was going to end up being a really angry, bitter person and being angry at the world because of what happened. I could have quite easily been, don't get me wrong, I still have my days where I am. It's shocking, and it's hard, but that's been the one thing that's helped me, just getting out and trying to do the events and stuff. So...
And it gives you a sort of a purpose outside of the family and work. And this is what I always say about the marathon, is I wouldn't have dragged my backside out for a run 3 times a week in training. I'd have said, I'll do couch to 5K and then stopped. But because I knew that I had money raised, that there was an expectation for me to do this, and because I'm quite stubborn, I ran out running so hungover I threw up in bushes. I was not in the best physical state for running a marathon. But I look back now and I think of that person as a girl, not a woman. I was 30 or something. But I look back at that girl and I just think, you led a sheltered life. I had issues as a teenager, but you pulled yourself back and you did something physical that you didn't think you could do, just to prove that you could. And I think that's what it was. I think it was to prove that I could still do things, because I was very protective by Ben. He took really, really good care of me, as does John. But I feel that I have to keep pushing myself to try scary things, like a cold bath, just things that are scary but not dangerous.
Yeah, I can relate to that a lot, Rosie, because I think, it's still really difficult, isn't it, what we have to think about every day. And sometimes you just need that test every now and then to make sure things are still there. It's just that you're still you as well. I think we're kind of pushed into this. We've got to make a go of our lives even more now, because of with you losing Ben and with Lisa and the same with John. We've all been through that process, and we have to make a go of it now. Otherwise, it's two lives lost then, isn't it? And you do have a choice.
That's just exactly how we feel. It is that, and I was just like you. I was going to be this miserable old drunk, probably just sitting spitefully commenting on people's posts when they had a baby. Well, you better hope your husband doesn't die.
Or weddings coming up,
yeah, like just turning up in the black veil. Or I could drag myself out when I don't feel like it, and I can do the school mum where I have a lovely network of friends, and I took my kids on holiday on my own, and you just keep fighting. You keep fighting. I learned how to run a wood business. I mean, I never saw that in my future.
I can hear about that on your talk.
Yeah, I barely speak a word of French, trying to deal with a guy in France, but you become a version of you that people say to you, "Oh, you're so brave and so strong," and nobody had ever said that to me before. I suppose, I don't know, like, I get quite looked after, and then people say, "Oh, you're so strong," and I'm thinking, but I haven't really had a choice. But I do think you do have a choice, because the other choice is that you lay in bed with a bottle of vodka and your kids get taken into care, or somebody has to come and look after you and them, or that you die because you don't take care of yourself. So it is a choice to be brave, and it is a choice to be strong. And I can only speak from what I've heard from you today, Dan, but I think you're incredible. And I think that your children will, if they haven't already told you, will tell you soon how proud they are of you and how much they appreciate it. Mine have just started to, actually, and it means the world.
Thank you.
And for everything you're doing, the fundraising, for sharing this story so honestly. And I don't have as many male voices on here as I do female. So I am always grateful, and I know how difficult it is for you guys to open up. So I'm really, really grateful to you, Dan, and I do mean that.
It's difficult we're taught as men to not show weaknesses. Unfortunately, as young, we're all starting to open up now. We know it's a stigma with mental health as well, but for me, I've found it helps to talk the journey through, and others that'll listen. They might not want to listen, and might get bored over it, but it certainly helps, and we should all talk a bit more. I think it's something that we all need to try and concentrate on.
Take off the capes, right? Throw them to the ground and say all of us are struggling sometimes.
Yeah, we have to be honest.
It has been an absolute honour to speak to you today, Dan, and I'm really grateful that you took the time. And you know what? We've talked for nearly 2 hours. How lovely is that?
Sorry to keep you
No,
focused
don't apologise. You didn't know. Please don't apologise. I've really enjoyed talking to you, which is a strange thing to say when we just talked about the death of your wife. But I wish you and the kids, I wish you joy and happiness and adventure.
Thanks very much.
And thank you for honouring Lisa so beautifully in the way you spoke about her. There won't be a person that listens to this that doesn't think, what a woman. So you've done her a great honour by putting it in the story. Will be out there for as long as you want it to be. So until we meet again, which we will, because you will be invited to any future events. And if I'm down Felixstowe way, I shall look you up. But for now, take care of yourself, okay? You might feel a little bit jarred after this. But and from me and from all our listeners, thank you.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for your time.
And to the listeners, if you have been affected by this, you know where we are. And it's going to be a difficult one for John to listen back to, this one. So it will be really interesting to hear his perspective on this. But yes, for now, goodbye, everybody. Take care.